YouTube, welcome to my channel, Annette Bella, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Emma movie. Of all Jane Austen's 6 novels, Emma is somewhat the most problematic because Emma is the only heroine that is handsome, rich and clever. She's got all those 3 things at the beginning of the novel. So what on earth does her character have to go through to improve at the end? And it really is one of these, and this is the genius of it. It's so nuanced, and there's lots of inference in her behaviour that you think she's not being rude, but she's not being totally polite, particularly over the treatment of Miss Bates and various other things that happen. She's coasting, and one of the reasons that she can get away with coasting is 1, she's a young woman. 2, she has no mother. 3, her governess has just left her. And 4, she's got to figure it out for herself. And I think that's really important. Miss Weston, in this adaptation, Miss Weston and Mr. Knightley have a conversation because Mr. Knightley's quite rightly so worried about Harriet Smith and the fact that Emma has too much influence on her. But Mrs. Weston turns around and says, no, it's really good that they're good companions, and actually they both need each other and they'll figure it out together. They will work it out. You've got to let it play out. I like the fact that in this adaptation, Mrs. Weston took a back seat as soon as she became Mrs. Weston, and that was good. What I did like about this version is everything is in pastel colours. It's kind of like pastel pink and baby blue pink and lemon icing everywhere. So it kind of makes Mrs. Bates' quotes to Fairyland really appropriate during the ball and other things. And that was interesting. And it felt like the characters, even the servants, were like little doll's house dolls that were being moved around. I particularly liked Emma's dad in this version. His hypochondria and his fear of drafts was just brilliantly done with all the screens and everything. I enjoyed that. Mr. Knightley and Emma actually was relationship was really well done. They were equals. It wasn't he was older or she was younger. They actually had a improving relationship. They would point out each other's faults in a pleasant way and help each other work through them, which is what friends do. And obviously as the film progresses, it turns to something else. I'm loving the nosebleed in a certain scene. That nosebleed was just genius, because Emma is a strange, funny novel. It's very, very different to Persuasion or Sense and Sensibility or Cough Cough Pride and Prejudice. And yes, prejudice does come up with regard to Frank Churchill. Is he a good son? Is he a bad son? What behaviours does he have? And why does he hide the fact that he saved Miss Fairfax in Weymouth? Why does he have to conceal it? What are his reasons, and are they justified? And is it justified to put a white lie onto the whole of society, particularly a small village? And I felt that the film really did this well, that it made you feel that the village was tightly knit, everybody knew everybody else's business, and they were very supportive. And it was interesting, in this version we actually found out who Harriet Smith's parents were. Well, her father at least, as soon as she comes of age. And it's interesting, in this version Harriet Smith is the Emma of her school. She has a very, very big room, which means she must have a very, very, very large allowance to allow her to have that. She seems to be treated extremely well there. She's not seen as dull or annoying. She's actually like alpha female there, and that's quite interesting that when it came to her nearly coming of age, that it was thought that it would be appropriate companion for Miss Woodhouse, who was suddenly on her own, no longer needing a governess, but still needing female company of an appropriate age, because chaperoning people, it had to happen, because Emma's basically caring for a dependent, which is one of the reasons why people assume that she's going to do the good lady thing of going around and supporting the poor. And yes, she can do it, but is it her choice? Does she find enjoyment in it? And it's interesting what Mr. Knightley says, no, your vanity is not in your looks, it lies in another way. and it could be superiority over others, and the fact that she thinks that she knows more when in fact she possibly doesn't. It's interesting, is Emma. Emma is one of the best novels, I think, and some people dislike it because it deals with moral character and developing of integrity and how that plays out in the long run. I did love Isabella. Isabella and her father were just brilliant in their neuroticism, and John Knightley, her poor husband, was like, yeah, much put upon, but it just showed you that with it was really, really good. Each of the characters in this was very well defined, because Emma's a novel that's got a lot of characters and they can all get a bit lost. It's not like Sense and Sensibility, where you've got three sisters. They can't inherit a house and they get sent to a cottage. They get an offer of going to this cottage with their £500 a year that they now have to live on. How is this going to work? And then it's not like Pride and Prejudice, where you've got five sisters and a mum and a dad, and it's how on earth are we going to cope with marrying off our daughters or sorting ourselves out before the Collinses turf us out and put us in the hedgerows. The joys of an entailed estate. I found Emma, sometimes there can be too many characters. Like, you've got the Coles who are in trade, and then you've got Mr. and Mrs. Dixon, who you never actually see. You only hear about the letters. Yeah, it is. It's sort of like, Jane Fairfax has written a letter saying this. And who do you get to deliver that? The most annoying character ever, Miss Bates. And then Emma is completely disinterested because of who's giving this information. But the information is crucial. And it's also interesting that Mr. Knightley is able to discover stuff about Mr. Elton on a gentlemanly basis, because there are certain things that gentlemen would reveal to other gentlemen, but not when ladies are around, for obvious reasons. Even if you are a member of the clergy, Mr. Elton, shame on you. I like the fact what they did with Mr. Martin. They made him somewhat of a dignified overseer farmer. Yes, he would get his hands dirty, but he would first allow his labourers to do some stuff. So you could actually imagine Harriet Smith marrying him quite easily without sort of like, ooh, is it it might not be too genteel for her type thing going on. And actually, the film was very, very, very well done with this. Interesting use of music throughout as well. I like the lights. I like the fact that they actually made the conversations flow almost like a dance in certain scenes, excluding the ball. They really thought about the body language and the facial expressions of the characters as well as the lines. It did feel like you were watching characters that were being played. And what was interesting is, yes, there was this whole business warning. It started off, the film was supposed to be a PG, then it got down to a U, and then there was this odd warning about natural nudity, which just turned out to the fact that they do a lot of clothing changes, and sometimes some characters are naked when they get changed, and I'm like, well, shock horror, woohoo, you usually are naked if you change from your pyjamas into your day clothes. Yeah, anyway, I thought that was really well handled, but also the fact that when people were changing in between social events, they were able to go, oh, like, and let out some of the pent-up emotions. And it was interesting with Miss Fairfax, who asked to leave Mr. Knightley's house because she felt the pressure that she was under. Overall, I'm going to give it sort of like, I want to give it high, but I'm going to give it a 3.9 because the Gwyneth Paltrow one is so strong, and it is so strong. Emma's a really difficult book to take to the screen because it's not what is supposedly a normal Jane Austen story. It's so nuanced and the inference is there. And Emma as a character has beauty, or she's handsome, she's clever, she's smart. More is to be expected of her. She just has to have some life experience to actually prove how clever and smart that she actually is. And then there's the fact that she's wealthy as well. So it's kind of like the complete opposite to Jane Austen's usual sort of, I am an heiress, but I'm so poor, I only have 3 dresses, but I'm still able to go to this ball because my uncle has kindly lent me the carriage this evening type thing. I'm going to give it a 3.9 for the film overall. It did feel like I was watching like the icing on a cake move at some point within it. I enjoyed it. Do check it out. Preferably not in the day, because when I went to see it, it was like a subplot of my particular theatre was like 5 or 6 people would decide, oh, we're going to go up and find our seats now, sort of like 10 minutes after the main film had started, and it continued all the way through. But that was the subplot to my film, was the people in the cinema decided, we're just going to get up and down and go to the loo all the way through this film. Because you couldn't tell that they'd read the novel. They'd all read the novel. Please like, comment and subscribe, and let me know what you think about it in the comments. And don't forget to click the little notification bell. Thank you. And thanks for the support. And I can't believe February's nearly over in 2020. Bye.